Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with another new episode from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very interesting, and this recipe is basically a very authentic recipe from the Pakistani cuisine. We're doing Keema Bharay Baingan. Now you might be thinking that what does this name mean? So let me tell you. Keema basically means beef mince, bhare means to fill, and Baingan means basically aubergine. So what we shall be doing for today's recipe is we shall make a recipe in which we shall fill the aubergines with beef mince, and we shall also make a gravy that will go along with this. Now you might be thinking, if we fill this up, how will we cook them? I shall tell you the way we do it in Pakistan. This recipe is very interesting, and this recipe is a household favorite. So you cannot exactly tell the origins of this recipe, but why? Because when you travel to different provinces in Pakistan, what usually happens is that the recipe changes a bit. Now when I say recipe changes a bit, that means that some people make it with beef mince, some people make it with chicken mince, some people use mutton mince, or some people even change the spices of the recipe. But this is one of the authentic ones. Why? Because the old grandmothers of Pakistan used to just make it with beef mince, and then slowly and gradually, as people started enjoying it more commercially, they basically shifted to other forms of fillings in terms of meat. Now the ingredients for today's recipe are very easy. The ingredients are, you need around half a kilogram of beef mince, you need around a little bit of red chili powder, cumin powder, turmeric powder, garam masala, coriander powder, some black pepper, you need some ginger garlic, you will be needing some salt to taste, some green chilies, 2 onions, a few tomatoes, and obviously the main ingredient is aubergines. Okay, when this is done, now we should start continuing with the recipe. How will you make this recipe? That's the first question. So what we need to do is basically we need to make a beef mince mixture first. So what I'll do is I shall just pick up a bowl, and I shall bring the bowl over here and keep it here. So now we shall just pick up the beef mince and transfer it to the bowl. We need to basically stuff the aubergines with the beef mince when it is raw. Remember that. Why? Because when it is raw, it will hold together. Now when you're done with this, just now press it like this and slowly and gradually just spread it apart. It will take you a long way if you do it properly and easily and simply. Okay, this is done. Now what I shall do is I should just pick up some salt and season the meat. This is done. Now what I'll do is I'll add some red chili powder, some garam masala, then some cumin powder. When this is done, you will take around 3 pieces of garlic. You'll pick up the shredder and you shall shred it over here. Pick up all the pieces, throw it in the bin, and just shake it up. All of this will go into this. I shall keep this on the side just momentarily and transfer all the pieces of garlic over here. Now I shall rinse my hands, and then I shall start mixing everything together and then show you how to continue with this recipe forward. When everything is in, basically now what we'll do is we shall just start mixing it. Now I'm doing it in the bowl, so remember it's not touching the green board, so there is no cross-contamination like this. Now you have to really get your hands dirty. Why? Because you need to keep mixing it very well. Why? Because if you do not mix it well, what will happen is that the spices will not get close together, and also the meat will not hold together. These are small things you need to do for this recipe. You need to beat it down a bit like this, and then just keep mixing it. So now what I'm doing is basically I'm just picking up some meat. I would like you to look over here and just pressing it so that it just comes out from the finger. Now what's happening is this is bringing the meat closer, which will hold it together when we start filling it. So this process will take around 5 minutes. You have to keep mixing it like this so that it gets super soft and the texture is very, you could say, sticky. Whenever you're getting meat for this recipe, remember one thing, please clearly. You tell the butcher that you need beef mince in which you have 20% fat and 80% lean meat. So once this is done, you will first rinse your hands and then I shall tell you how to stuff the aubergines properly. So now the beef mince is ready. You need around 4 pieces of aubergine. I shall just keep them over here and then we shall start cutting them. Okay, so now what will we do first? You will take your paring knife. Now you will just take this part out. Now you can see basically the stem and the leafy part, but you won't cut it. If you cut it, it will fall apart. So I shall just push the knife like this and take this part off. Slowly and gradually you'll do it and you will be able to do it properly. If you go super fast, you will damage the pulp of the vegetable and that will ruin everything. After this you have to wash it. Why? Because the leaves basically hold, you could say, dirt which comes from the soil, and that's one thing you do not want your food to be mixing with. Why? Because it can also give you a bad stomach and also it will ruin the whole texture of the food. So now you will keep the stem on, remember that, and just rinse these once after throwing everything in the bin. So I shall just pick it up in this and I shall take it to the sink and wash it properly. Now as you can see, it's a basket. You can just add water on top like this and then just shake it up and bring it back and keep it over here. When this is done, what I'll do is I shall now start cutting it. Okay, so what you need to do first is you need to just cut the aubergine straight. Super careful, remember that. And as you can see, it's opening. But now what I'll do is I shall just push my knife in from this side and then from this side. When this is done, I shall just pull it from here and pass my knife in. Now what I'll do is I shall just twist this part and bring it out. Now you can see what I did. I basically made this part a little hollow, and this is how I'll do it again. I'll show it to you again once more. Pick the aubergine, bring it over here, slice it like this, make cuts like this, and then just twist this part and bring it out. So for this you have to basically be very careful, otherwise you can break the aubergine apart, which you do not want to, remember that. I will do this for both of these and then I shall show you what to do next. So now all the aubergines are ready. What I'll do is basically I shall just pick up some salt and season the center part. Just season it, open it a little bit so that the salt goes in and it also starts helping the moisture to come out. So I'm just turning it around and just pouring salt in the cracks so that the aubergine is flavored properly. Now this is done. Now what I'll do is I shall just pick up some beef mince, start mixing it. Remember to bring it close and make it super tight. When this is done, I shall just push the meat inside the cavity like this and just bring it close. Now you can see that the meat is in. I shall keep it in the basket in front of you so that you can get a proper shot and you can properly look at it. Okay, once again we shall pick up some meat, bring it close and stuff it in. Stuff it in and start pressing it so that it holds together. What I'm doing is I'm just putting the beef mince in. This is done. And we can see our resident cat over here, because this resident cat basically wants food all the time. Let me just tell you something about Pakistan. In Pakistan, you'll see a lot of cats roaming around, but that's, you could say, a silent part of our culture. A lot of households, a lot of people living around feed these cats, and that's why they always look very healthy. And we are known as people who love cats a lot. Okay, now this is done. I shall just press it and just put as much of the aubergine I can inside the cavity. Now this is done. I shall just go for a break, and once I'm back from the break, I shall let you know what to do next. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching Indus Cuisine. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. During the break I just waited for you, and as you can see, the meat is basically resting in the aubergines. Now what I shall do is I shall just pick up a wok over here, and we shall bring the wok and place it on the stove. We'll bring it to heat first, and then I shall add a few things. Now I need to cook these in a little bit of water. So what I'll do is I shall just pick up some ginger. I shall just pick up my knife. I shall put this over here so that you can have a good look. And we shall just make super thin slices of the ginger like this. When this is done, I'll keep the remaining ginger on the side, and I shall place this over here. On the other hand, what I'll do is I shall just pick up some water, transfer it to the wok, and that is it. You do not want too much of the water. You will now transfer all the pieces of ginger over here. Just make sure each and every piece is separated before it is added to the water, so that the flavor is enhanced. Then what I'll do is I shall add a little bit of salt, let's say a 1/4 teaspoon, that is about it. And then I shall add a little bit of garam masala for the flavor, just 2 to 3 pinches. And I shall pick up one piece of green chili, take the stem out like this, and just slit it like this and make a small opening so that the water has that nice aroma. Now I shall throw the stem on the side, and the only thing what I shall do is I shall now slowly and gradually reduce the heat and place the aubergines together. Now you have to remember that the aubergines must be placed together so that they don't start falling here and there. Once all the aubergines are placed, what I'll do is I shall pick up the scissor and slowly just cut the stem off. You need a kitchen scissor for this. Why? Because this is always a little hard. As you can see, there's a lot of pressure that is going into this. You will take the stem out slowly and gradually. Do not shake the whole vegetable too much. Pick this and throw it in the bin. Now this is done. Now what I'll do is I'll bring it to heat, let it boil, pick up some salt and just season the top. And now once it comes to boil, what I'll do is I shall give it a lid. The boil is almost here, so till the time this is boiling, what I'll do is I'll tell you the next step. Now we have to make a sauce. Remember, this will be cooking in the water slowly with the lid on, so that it keeps cooking, steaming, and it will get really soft, and it will start basically falling down. And we will make a sauce in which we shall be using the remaining beef which I've kept at the back. And as you can see, the boil has come. I shall just give it a lid and change the stove over here and reduce it to simmering heat. Remember, the heat needs to be simmering, because if it's not simmering, the water will evaporate and you will ruin the whole recipe. So I'll just reduce the heat to the simmering point. You can see it's still a little high. Reduce a little more, and this is it. Now it's simmering. You can see the bubbles are very light, very less. Keep a lid on top and let this cook for 12 minutes minimum, and I'll show you how you will find out that it has cooked properly. Now coming back to the recipe, now what I'll do is I shall pick up the pan, bring it over here, and now we shall start cooking this recipe. Okay, now you need some onions. For this recipe, what I'll do is I shall just finely slice the onions. The root is out for this one, remember that. Turn around. And this is done. Bring it together. Now I'll pick up the second onion, which I shall use right now only, but I shall first take the root out because this one has the root on. Throw it in the bin, and now I shall push this aside and then finally slice it. So be super careful. Now what do we have to do for this recipe? We need to cook it to a point that the flavor of the onion starts to mix with the meat. Increase the heat, get the oil, and add half of it. We're using half of the oil right now, which is half a cup, and keep the remaining for the recipe, which I shall let you know how to complete later on. Okay, now what I'll do is I shall just push this aside, bring this over here, and transfer all of these onions to the pan. All of the onions go in. And always keep an eye on the aubergines. You do not want to overcook them. Also remember that, please, because if you overcook them, the whole flavor will go down. So the stuffed aubergines are being cooked. Do not remove the lid also. Why? Because when you remove the lid, that will also ruin the whole texture of the food. Okay, just keep an eye on the heat. Now add salt. How much salt do you need? You need only a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which will go in, which is over here. I shall just sprinkle it like this, slowly and gradually, so that the onions start losing their moisture properly. Now mix it up. Now pick up a spatula, a rubber one, push it down, and start mixing it so that the onions don't stick together much. Now this recipe is basically for at least 4 to 5 people. You will eat this recipe with naan bread or pita bread, or if you want with some nice boiled rice. Okay, now just mix it up. When you mix it up, the onions that stick together don't stick together anymore. Remember that. Okay, now I'll keep the heat super high and I shall just give it a lid. Now remember that you can see the onions piling up, so just press them down so that each onion gets individual heat. Okay, this is done. The heat is up. Now we need some tomatoes. What I need is I need 4 tomatoes for this recipe. So I'll just pick up 4 tomatoes and we shall just add them in a very civilized manner, you could say. Okay, so just take the eye of the tomato out slowly. And this is done. Pick this up, throw it in the bin. Remember that. Keep your stations very clean. And now I shall just cut the tomatoes into 4 halves like this for this recipe. Not too much of hassle, as you can see. And this is done. Now all of these tomatoes will go over here into the blender. You don't need this anymore, keep it at the back. I'm so sorry. And now blend them to a fine paste. Give it a lid. So once the tomatoes are done, you will just take the lid off from here. And as you can see, the onions are getting brown now. So what I'll do quickly is I shall just momentarily dish them out. For that, I'll bring a very nice small bowl, keep it over here, and then reduce the heat to 0 and take the oil out. You want this oil on the side, and transfer all the onions over here. As you can see, this recipe is a little complicated, but if you follow all the steps slowly and gradually, you won't feel that pain. Okay. You have to take out all of the onion. Make sure of that, please. Tilt it and just take it out. You can leave a few bits and pieces, that's fine, but not too much, and that could only be 1% of the whole thing. When this is done, I'll keep it over here in front of you, and now I shall increase the heat to full, and now put some garlic. We need around, let's say, 5 pieces of garlic. which I shall keep over here in front of you and press it so that we can finally chop it. All of the garlic is done. Bring it over here. Finely chop it. We're making a very nice sauce, as I told you. And this is done. Transfer all of this over here. The oil is hot. It also has the flavor of the onions. Tilt it and scoop it up. Let the garlic sweat so that the oil gets a very nice fine flavor, and over here just mix it up once more. This is done. Now take the lid off and transfer all of this over here. This goes in, increase the heat. And as you can see, this is just the tomato sauce and nothing else. I'm mixing it, and now you do not need this anymore. This goes at the back. Do not throw it inside the sink. It will ruin the whole texture, remember that. Keep mixing it, and now I shall let this cook for 2 minutes so that it just reduces down a little bit. So as you can see, it's been 2 minutes. The tomatoes are nice and you could say smooth. Now I'll just pick up the jug which I just washed, keep it over here in front of you, tilt this and transfer a little bit of the sauce into this, around 2 ladles for now. The sauce needs to be really fine, remember that, for this recipe. Now what I'll do is I'll pick up the onions which I have fried, and I shall transfer this over here. Transfer all of the oil, the onions, leaves in the bowl so that it gets a nice texture. Keep this at the back, and now bring this back over here. Now I shall process it until the onions turn into a very fine paste. This is done. I need a little bit of the gravy, around 2 more ladles, and as you can see there are around 3 more ladles left on the side. So I'll keep it over here, pick this up, and now I shall do what you did not expect me to do. Okay, I shall pick up the remaining beef mince, transfer it over here, keep the bowl on the side, give this a lid, and process the you could say beef mince to a fine paste, even slowly and gradually. And as you can see, this is done. You need a very high power machine to convert the beef into a paste. The paste is over here. Now I shall transfer all of this over here, and now pick up the spatula and make sure that you do not waste anything. As I told you, this is all the goodness you will need for this recipe, and you will pull it out slowly. This is done. Now I shall keep this on the side. Now I do not need this anymore, and now we shall just go towards the final steps of this recipe. Increase the heat to full, remember that. Now add some red chili powder in the sauce on the side, add some garam masala on the side, add some cumin powder on the side, tilt it, add some coriander powder, some turmeric powder, reduce the heat to low for now, and now pick up around 3 green chilies, put them with each other very close, tightly you could say, and turn them around. Finely slice them like this. And this is done. Now I shall add all of these green chilies into the pan over here. Throw the sticks on the side, remember that. Pick it up, transfer these over here, and just add a cup of water, and that is about it. The cup of water goes in, increase the heat to full, and now start mixing the sauce with the water. The masala needs to be mixed properly, the spices basically. On the other hand, over here, as you can see, the aubergines are also cooking very nicely and smoothly. Now I shall just break the mince, you can see it's a fine paste, and start mixing it with the ladle over here. I told you we'll do this very slowly and gradually, but you have to slowly just press it down so that the water basically allows it to split. Now the remaining oil I told you we shall be using goes in the food now to just add a little bit of flavor. And you know, when fat goes in, the recipe also increases in flavor. Why? Because it releases a special, you could say, chemical in your brain that gives you satisfaction. Okay, I have just mixed all the ingredients. Remember, there should be no lumps inside. So I will keep mixing it till I see all the water and the oil basically mixed with the beef mince properly. Now this is almost done. Press it down and you can see there is no piece left. The sauce is smooth, it has beef. Also, it has all the nice juices of all the other ingredients. Now, whatever I do not need, I shall just pick it up and keep it on the side over here. I shall just clean up the counter a little bit and throw it over here. And I shall just pick up some peppercorns and transfer them into the sauce over here. Why? Because when you bite on it, you'll get a nice flavor. Now, the sauce is done. What I'll do is I shall now bring it to heat and place a lid on top. On the other hand, let's see how the aubergines are doing. The aubergines are cooked, they're super soft. As you can see, I shall show you how you should tell. Pick a knife, transfer it in. If it goes in smoothly, it's done. Now you can see the sauce over here. This is all the flavor. What I'll do is I shall just reduce it and then I shall now show you how to plate this gorgeous recipe. Don't go anywhere, keep watching Indus Cuisine, lovely people. So as you can see, both of the things are ready. What I'll do is I shall start pairing it. I shall just pick up one aubergine. Now you can see it's really soft. The texture over here, the beef is well cooked. It's falling apart and this is how it's done. I'll just pull it out over here and I shall just press it a bit in front of you like this. This is done. I shall pick up another one and slowly place it on the plate. This is done. You can see it's falling apart. It's really soft. The remaining two can stay on the side. Remember that. I will give it a lid also. And now we shall just add the sauce. The sauce goes on the top, so I'll bring it over here. I'll shift this over here. You need to multitask properly. Remember that. And just place it on top. This is done. Give the sauce a lid and just keep it over here. Today's recipe is ready. I hope you liked today's episode. I'll see you in the episode of Indus Cuisine. Take care of yourself, lovely people. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.